Well, yeah. So, Gary, I suppose firstly, obviously, you'd like to be like Rob certainly, and Jax and Tom. We'd like to prefer to be in a field in the middle of Essex, but unfortunately, we're not able to do that today. So, how have you been spending your Saturday afternoon?
Food shopping this morning with Dawn, Seb. I would have been exercising. I think you know where I've been in recent times, but as I don't know if Jax has shared with you, I'm nursing an injury, Seb. So I'm not able to exercise at the moment. So I've had a bit of a lazy afternoon. I toyed with going to the Oxford game against Welling, and and even the Hungerford game against Maidstone. But with protocols and everything, what we're dealing with at the moment, it's not advisable. And I don't know. I had to agree with the wife and give it a miss, Seb.
And obviously, it's a very strange time. But obviously, as a football manager, we know the reasons why the games have been called off. But to get a game called off quite late on the night, the day before, must be frustrating for you, just in terms of the preparations and the training.
Yeah. I mean, Seb, I don't know if it's been made, it's been put out there yet, but we had a signing that we wanted to announce yesterday. Has that been announced yet? I'm not sure it has.
The signing?
Yes,
no.
A loan signing. Well, we held off as long as we possibly could, Seb, with the signing, just simply because we wasn't sure that the game was going to go ahead. But as it got into the sort of middle part of the afternoon on Friday, we was pretty confident it would go ahead, and we ended up loaning a player from Hayes and Yedding for 28 days, which wasn't ideal in terms of the game being called off. I mean, he's definitely a player that we would improve the squad, and a player that we've kept a check on over time, and it's the opportunity of getting him in and amongst it today has been taken away from us. But look, that's what we're dealing with, Seb, isn't it? It's everyone that at some stage is going to deal with it, and it's difficult times. It's challenging. Just have to get on with it at present.
Yeah, well, we may as well announce it for those lucky people that are here, because he's still. We can announce it, can't we, Jack? So if we've signed him, haven't we? So he's on loan. Jake Shepherd from Hayes and Yedding. Just tell us a bit about why you've got him in, Gary.
Yeah, he's a player that I'm been familiar with for a long time. We nearly got him out of Wealdstone a couple of times on loan, but for different reasons, it never materialised. In the summer of this year, he was available, but financially he was offered a much better deal than we could afford at the time in the summer to what my value was and what we required within the squad. So he ended up signing for Hayes and Yedding, but he's a player who's got a lot of versatility in his game. I like that in individuals that can play in numerous positions. He can play anywhere across the back four, but his favoured position is in the middle of the park. He's a combative central midfielder that has a very good range of passing and very comfortable playing through the lines. And that's where he's been playing most of his football this year at Hayes. He's by far head and shoulders their best player this season, and he's far too good for that division, in my opinion, and would definitely give us a really good option with the problems we're dealing with different bits and bobs within the side at the moment, injury wise and suspensions and different bits. It was going to be tough for us today. Luke was 50-50. We had obviously Dean Inman suspended, and obviously Charlie not quite where he needed to be. Christian Smith's not had a very good week in terms of training as well. He's had an injury to his foot. So it was going to be a challenging effort from the defensive unit today. But look, we would have got on with it, Seb. I'm sure we'd have been fine. We've got, as I say, players that can fall in there if needed.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, and then you've also got Alan Julian as a last resort, which is not a bad last resort in any way, shape or form. But with the fact that the leagues below us, obviously Hayes and Yedding in the leagues below us, it's looking likely that their seasons are going to be more than curtailed. Some of them might be considered null and void or whatever. Who knows what will happen? But are you getting phone calls from players or people or from managers saying that you should have a look at it, because Ryan Gondo's come from below as well, hasn't he, and not been able to play football for Whiteley.
Yeah, I mean, Seb, look, they tend to find themselves at that level for a reason. Some of them are on the way up, but the majority of the better, more experienced players are at that level for a reason, that they've fallen down the the pyramid. So as much as, I mean, I've had lots of phone calls, lots of different, approaches and such like from different, from different players, from different managers, but they've got to better your team. They've got to better your squad. They've got to enhance the group that you've got. And I, as I said to you, they've got to be the right type of players. And, as much as there is a lot of options out there at the level below now, it's, making that adjustment to Conference South football, you're not seeing a huge amount of players jump into it because it's such a demanding division. So yeah, it's bleak for them at the moment. It's really desperate times for them, Seb, on the back of last season's null and void. It's looking very much like it's going to be another season of the season not finishing and not coming to an end. So it's the reality of what we're dealing with, and for the levels underneath us. So I'm just really sad times for them football clubs, because, like we've said on numerous of times, I don't know quite where it takes a lot of them football clubs. I mean, there's been quite a bit of investment already into a lot of them teams, and with nothing really coming back in return, and no season to finish, it's I'm sure there's some really difficult decisions to make at boardroom level, with this season and the next season even in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And then, obviously, Jax has alluded to the many things that we've had to do. And I suppose one thing, all the protocols and what's happening outside of the club, that's just something you can't change, is it? These are all things that you just have to adjust to and that. But I suppose the one thing you can control is that you said it's a difficult division, but are you happy that we're, sat fifth in the table, in amongst it? At this stage, after 14, well, you've played 14 games. Obviously, teams have played all different number of games, but to be there, are you happy that you managed to carry on what you unfortunately couldn't finish last year?
Yeah, I don't think the table's a true reflection of where we're at the moment, Seb. Us and every other team in the division, like you've just said, there's anything from 15, 16 games down to sort of 10, 11 games, isn't there? 9 games, I think there's even someone with. But, so there's not really a true reflection there. But what I'm pleased about is our level of performance. I know there's been a lot of recognition and a lot of praise for the group of players that we've got and some of the performances that we've put together. I don't think there was enough noise made about the performance at Dorking when we'd had a 21-day period with no games. I don't think enough can be said about that type of performance. It was a bit backs to the wall, of course, but that showed a resilience and a togetherness that speaks volumes for the group that we've assembled. And as much as we're in a healthy position in the table, what I'm more contented with is our level of performance and the quality within the squad. I do believe we'll be in and amongst it, all season. I've looked at watched a lot of games and a lot of teams already this season, and I do feel we're in the, one of the better teams in the division, and definitely good enough for that top 7, which is obviously what the target is. But that performance at Dorking on the back of the rest. I mean, you look at St Albans' performance today. I think their last game was the 19th of December going into today, so they're dealing with exactly what we dealt with going into that Dorking game, and they're coming up short. I mean, they're 2 down at
against Chelmsford,
at Chelmsford. So again, as I just said, it's it speaks volumes for our level of performance that day and where we're at. Obviously, the Dulwich game was a disappointment, but there was mitigating circumstances in that, wasn't there? As the game went on, with 10 men, and up against it, we still showed our quality and we still showed our credentials and could quite easily have recovered the game if we'd have been a little bit more efficient. I think we'll use efficient and clinical. So.
Yeah, I think that's something that you've said, to be fair, quite a lot this season.
Yeah.
And I think we've always been in games, haven't we? It's just having that efficiency and sometimes.
Yeah, but what do you say? That's not just aimed at our team. I think you'll look at most of the teams in the division, and everyone will tell you that offensive, part of the game is the part that's most effective, with you dipping in and dipping out and losing games and having games called off and missing 2 weeks, missing 3 weeks. It's always that side, because you've got to be precise, you've got to be efficient, you've got to be very decisive in that area of the pitch. It's the it's the business end of the pitch, as they say. It's it's not as difficult setting your team up to defend and do the combative side of the game. It's finding them fine details in the final third that you tend to, be amiss of, simply because of the uncertainty and the timeout and the breaks that are happening. And I think most teams are suffering from that. It's not just us.
Yeah, of course. And I think talking about teams having times out and stuff like that, and I know it's difficult and it is for everyone, but I assume, and I think the way they've demonstrated that with their performances, that if we may have a bit more of a break, or whether the league gets paused, or whether we, unfortunately, there's nothing to say that just because we've had one outbreak amongst the staff, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen again, no matter how many precautions you take. But does it, at least you've got a good group of players and a good group of people to take on whatever the challenges are in the next few weeks and months?
Yeah, totally, Seb. I think what gets served up, we have to deal with. If it be a break, if it be an isolation period, if it be a circuit breaker, we've just all got to get on with it and deal with it. Everyone's health is more important than anything. It's definitely more important than football. There is some concerns growing in our changing room. There's a few players that are more concerned than others. I think we're in a privileged position that we're able to play at the moment. When you look at what, like we've just spoke of, the divisions underneath us, but there's still obviously safety and health issues that we have to take into account. And as I say, some players are finding it a little bit more difficult than others to comprehend that we're still playing and we're still in and amongst it with lots of different people, lots of, as much as the protocols are being followed, we're mixing with a huge amount of people, Seb. And, without testing, that is something that's a concern to us all. And I think we're heading towards, maybe a break. I mean, me and the chairman have spoke of that there could quite well be a break imminent. But, it's if there is a break, I think we will have to come back with some sort of level of testing. I think that is something that you can see the EFL have demanded, and I think it's something that is definitely got to be taken quite seriously at National League and National League North and South level.
Yeah, agreed. I agree personally. I think that, I definitely think that should be the case. Gary, thanks very much. We have been joined by a former Hampton and Richmond Borough player, which is fantastic. Thank you. But Gary, we've got Ryan Hill on the end of the line here. I just thought, have you got anything to say to Ryan? And have you been keeping an eye on his progression into the Eastleigh first team?
Yeah, I have. I've been keeping in close contact with Ryan, and he's been in close contact with us. He's found his way into the team, and he's done exactly what we expected him to do. He's worked hard. He's a top lad. Got time for him, but just wanted to let him know we've got the real Ryan now.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, I'm going to hand over to Tom, our photographer, to interview the original Ryan, shall we say?
Yeah, he's the original Ryan. We've had to replace a Ryan with a Ryan. It's not necessarily the real Ryan, but
he's got better tats though, our new Ryan, I think. So,
well, let me, Tom. I'd have to say there'd be a good compo. That'd be a good sort of compo that would tats between the two of them. Ryan's full of them as well, both of them. So that wouldn't be a bad compo to compare those.
Ryan, thanks for joining us. It's always nice to hear from former players, especially one who's now taking that step onto full-time football. How are you settling in at Eastleigh then?
Well, firstly, nice to be here. Nice to listen to Gary as usual. But I'm enjoying it. Full-time football is good, like every day. Obviously, we're off as well, the same as you guys, because we had one case of it. So with no testing, we will have to isolate. So it's one of those ones. But we've been given stuff to do. I'm lucky to have stuff at home that I can do. So it's tough when you're off, but all round I'm enjoying it. I feel sharper being able to train every day, but it's good, yeah, all round good.
And on that COVID stuff as well, so Gary obviously spoke about how some of the players in the Hampton changing room are feeling from the COVID perspective. What's the atmosphere like at Eastleigh? Is it something that you're worried about as players, or do you just want to be out there playing?
It's a weird one. It's not spoken about too much, but this is our second break of it now. So we've been off. I think it was in like over 4 weeks. We've now been off for 3 weeks because we were off for 2 weeks when the first one happened, and now this happened again. But we have spoken because do you remember there was that week where fans could come in, and there was, if you were in tier 4, your family couldn't come. So it was a weird one that we're obviously, I was in tier 4 at the time. I could play, but my family couldn't come. So it's a weird one. And obviously the guys with families, and well, everyone has families and everyone has people that are like more, what's the word I'm looking for? More likely to catch it and it harm them. They're obviously worried about that. So I'm lucky I've got a place down south. So when it did happen, I stayed away until I got tested to come home because my brother's diabetic. So I didn't want to obviously rush home with the chance of having it and then put him at risk.
I think that's one of the things that, as fans, it's easy to forget, isn't it? Everyone's worried about mental health of fans being able to watch their team, whether in the ground or on the TV. But people forget that just because players are young and healthy in general, they've got families as well. You've got your own worries away from the pitch and that consideration of what the mixing is going to bring.
Yeah, exactly. You think about it, as Gary said, the amount of people that you mix with, you don't realise that one person to have it can affect so many.
Absolutely. And for you personally as a player, making this step up to full-time football again, obviously you've played in the academy system, then you had the really good 2 seasons at Hampton playing competitive senior football. How well has Hampton stood you in good stead to go up to Eastleigh and now crack on at the National League level?
Perfectly. Like I always say it, and I'm not just saying it because he's on the screen here and I can see him, but like without Gary I wouldn't have been able to, I don't know where I would have ended up really. Like I could have, because when I first joined and when I do look back, because I always reevaluate like at the end of a year and somewhere, I always think when I started to where I left was crazy. So the fact that playing the games at Hampton really helped me be able to push on.
And obviously, Eastleigh sort of drip fed you into the squad. There's a very competitive squad there as well. But, we're all following your progress. You're getting a lot more first team minutes over the last month. What's the difference in level like? Are there any specific things that you're noticing?
I would just say the main thing for me, and I've said it I'm in quite close contact with my dad and people that I speak to. And I just say the main thing is in training really. You see the players that have played in the league before, so the older players like Jack Payne, who plays in midfield, he does all the simple things, and he makes sure that he does all the simple things really well. So he doesn't ever overcomplicate stuff, and as I said, he does the simple stuff really well.
And in terms of the playing style, how do you feel that you're a very direct runner? You like to attack your fullback. How do you feel that fits into the way that Eastleigh play?
They play a high pressing game as well. I've been playing more in a essentially attacking midfield really, but as we were going to play Stockport when it all happened, and I was due to play out wide, which I was looking forward to because that is obviously overall, I would say, my most effective position. I wouldn't say I enjoy it as much because I can guarantee playing in midfield, you don't have to track a fullback. So that's not a bad thing. But they play good football, and I feel that I've settled in well there. It was obviously frustrating at the start because they were on a winning run. So as expected, I didn't expect him to just change the team and me to go straight in. I had to show what I was about, show my qualities, and then luckily we got the FA Trophy game against Wildstone, and took my chance from there really, and just obviously pushed on from there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I know we'll all keep following that closely from the Beverly as well. Is there anyone else got any questions for Ryan?
I'd like to ask him something. How much do you miss us, Ryan?
The thing I always speak to Nathan, being my best friend, and he's obviously there, and I always ask him, what's it like? How did the gaffer react in these certain situations? Because I know what he's like. But in terms of like the club and everyone it was fantastic. Like the boys when I was there, there's obviously new players there which I haven't been around, but the boys that are still there from when I've been there, you do miss everyone. The coaching staff there, everyone's brilliant. Everyone backed me. Everyone like helped me in their different ways. There's some things I don't miss, like being screamed at from the other side of the pitch. It made me a better player. Definitely made me a better player.
And listen, remember the screaming and the shouting at you was getting less and less because you were starting to do what was required, right? Yeah, exactly. It was getting less and less. But look, we missed you, but we're so pleased that you've progressed and you've moved on, and we really want you now to really knuckle down and get a place in that team and stay in that team, every week because it's deserving of your ability. And I mean that you're a pleasure to work with.
But I'm always following because it's good to have the shout out to Seb with the free YouTube stream. And the best thing is after a game, I've got I follow Eastleigh and I follow Hampton on FootMob, and they're the only ones that give me the instant results. I've got it on the screen. Obviously, I know our result, and then I'm looking straight away. Luckily, it comes up, and I've seen a lot of wins.
Good. That's good. Nice to know.
Ryan, I've got a quick question for you. Obviously, another player that left Hampton and Richmond Borough after doing really well was Danilo. I presume that you two are having or chatting about how well you're doing, because obviously Danilo had a good month last month as well. I think there was one day where you both scored a brace, so it was good to see from a Hampton perspective. But is there a bit of banter flying back and forth with that?
The funny thing was we played Maidenhead and we were both on the bench, and I ran down and I looked at him and I gave him like the look, and he came running down as well, and we were warming up, and we were speaking just about like how this has happened now. And then I think he came on last 10 and they got a player sent off, and he was saying something to the ref. And I won't repeat what I said on a live call, but I said to him, Danilo, and then you can imagine what the rest is. And then we just had a laugh about it after.
So yeah, brilliant. No, Ryan, cheers for joining us. And I know you did watch you were watching the end of the Dorking game, weren't you? I think your game was called off, so you were watching that. So thanks very much for joining. And thanks to Dave and everyone for putting that free streaming service on. But yeah, Ryan, appreciate you joining us. And we obviously keep a keen eye on what you're doing. And thanks again.
No worries. Nice glasses, Gary.
Yeah, let me read ones, right? I can't look at the phone or anything without them now, I'm afraid. I think it's age.
Well, I think we should probably go to a song, just have a little bit of a breather. We've had a lot of talking, and then we should get Steve, the academy manager, back, or not back on, but he'll be coming on. So Gary suggested that he would very much like John Denver, Country Roads. Gary, just quickly before we go into that song, why have you chosen that one?
It's a terrace song, isn't it? I think the Hampton faithful sing that, so I think that was the relation to that. But it's a song I don't mind either, Seb.
Okay, well, we'll leave Dave to take that over. But yeah, cheers.